Okay, we are going to continue on with our network diagram um, examples. So again, I'm trying to break them into pieces so that you can look at one and then you look at another, so you don't have to kind of like zoom or go fast forward to try to find something that is useful or not. So you can look at them different points and different times. So this is an example number 2 of calculating a network diagram. And so this example A in the notes. And I also should point out two things. One is the answers to these worked out for the examples, like I said, will be at the back of these notes, the student notes for this chapter, chapter 14. So again, the worked out, the solutions will be not necessarily the how, but the end result will be lists found in the very back of the notes for this chapter, student notes. And also, slack time, I should point out, there's a little comment about slack time. And so slack time is when you really have slack time. It's like on that network diagram before where you could have wasted an extra day at that, I think it was B at the top. You could have wasted an extra day and that would be slack time. It's time that you could waste and still get the whole overall project done on time. So that would be slack time. All right, I'm going to jump over to the share screen so you can see what's going on here. And I'm going to go and hopefully just kind of walk through my thinking on this, and hopefully some of it may make some sense to you. It gets better, believe me, it gets better as you work through them. You kind of start to get rhythm to it, and then sometimes all of a sudden it's like, wow, this I can just kind of work right through this. But for first few times, it's going to be a bit of a struggle for some people, perhaps. All right, here is the example. And I'm not going to do it on the side here because I'm not going to have enough room, but I'm just going to talk about this for just a second. Let me zoom in. So when I'm looking at these things, and on the exam, not the upcoming one, but one that's later on the semester, is you got to kind of find something to grab a hold of to begin with. And I'm probably going to try to sketch it out here to begin with, and then I'll transfer it over to a bigger piece of paper so you can see the details of it. So it says activity 1, and I'm just going to call these A1, A2, just so that you don't get the times and the date, the times and the activity names messed up. So we're just going to call them A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6, A7. So the key to this one is looking for predecessors, things that come before another activity. So I scroll through this and I say I need, and by the way, predecessor these will be A1s, etc. So that's one of the side things of doing that, I guess. But the predecessor here for A1 is none. So that's the first one. So I will put in here, and I'll write this bigger in a minute. A1, again, my thing's kind of small. And how long does A1 take? It takes 1 day, 1 hour, whatever. 1. And so A1 is 1. All right, so I have that one taken care of. Oh, which one, the predecessors? Oh, look at, I have predecessors. A2 only comes from A1, only comes from A1. So I'm going to put an A2. And sometimes I will tell you, and I may be kind of tight on space here, but I wanted to show you too. A2 is, yeah. I gotta make sure I don't get these lines mixed up as I'm doing them. That could really mess up things. All right. A2 comes from A1 and it takes 5. So I have that one taken care of. And I say, I don't want A3 yet because I don't want to do this one because I don't know if I don't have, well, no, I guess I do. I can do I can do A3. I'm going to try to draw a line here because gets confusing for me. All right. So A3 comes from A1. So I know that A3 is around here. That's my printer. I'm not gonna worry about the times right now. I can do that later. And so I got that one taken care of. And I say, oh yeah, look at here. I have A5 also comes from A1. So I write A5. Don't worry about the times. And so they all come from A1. Here is two little tips I strongly recommend to keep you from messing up is arrows always go that way. Okay, they always go that way. When I say they always go that way, don't do this. Don't have a situation where you have it like this, you know, A, B, C, and don't have a situation where you go like this goes to there and this goes to here and this goes to there. Never ever have your arrows go in that direction at all, because then you don't know if this is like if this is an LS you're doing, or an LF, or an ES, or an EF. So the bottom line is never put those arrows going in this direction at all. Always make sure they're always kind of moving somewhere in this direction. Even something like this is okay, or I should draw this a little bit. Even something like this is okay. It doesn't have to be extremely, straight ahead, but at least in that direction. And also avoid things where it's like you're trying to draw it around here and this one's going to here, and that gets to be really, don't do anything like that where your lines are not clear. Or even if there's, don't do this even. Oops. Don't do this and then this, because you're getting your lines crossed. It increases your likelihood of making a mistake. What I recommend when you're doing that, that's when number one is make sure your lines always are moving that direction. And number two is draw a sketch first for the more complicated ones, and then erase it and make them so that they are much smoother and you can follow much more easily. And I'll see if I made that mistake on this one. Oh, by the way, I do have the fifth one done. All right, so now I know where A1 is, I know where A2 is, I know where A3 is, and I know where A5 is, because they all came from 1. So now I say, well, what else do I know? Do I know the fourth one? Nope, I don't know the fourth one. So but I do know that A4 comes from A3. And I can put these on here, make it. If I could stick a little A's up in there. All right, maybe make it a little easier for you. So I do know that A4 comes directly from A3. So here is A3. So I'm going to put A4 right here. So now I got A4. So now things are looking up for me. I have A1, A2, A3, A4, A5. I don't have A6, and I don't have A7. But I say, oh, I don't have A6 yet over here, so I can't do that one, but I can do that one. So I need 4. A6 comes from 4 and 5. So here's 4. And here's 5, and there's 5, and there's 4. So A6 comes from 4 and 5. We got that one taken care of. So I just make my little mark over here. And it says A7 comes from, and 2, 6, and 4, but I'm just going to say 2, 4, and 6. It makes my life easier. So it comes from here, it comes from here, and it comes from here. So I'm going to put it about, and I made it too small, and I should have made it bigger to begin with. A7 comes from A2, A4, and A6. And there's my network diagram. Now you say I need my numbers. Okay, sure, I will. I know that A1 is 1, A2 is 5, A3 is 1, A4 is 2, A5 is 1, A6 is 1. It takes 1 day. A7, 2 days. And that is the first step in your network diagram, the first step. If something doesn't work right, look right, or these are too close, or it looks like it's going straight up and down, this arrow here, for whatever reason, now's the time to kind of do erasing it or even draw it again, just sketch it and draw it better a little bit later on. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to pause for a few minutes while I draw that, so you don't need to be, okay, here we go, pause. All right, I am back. I'm going to go back to the share screen real quick. All right, so here is what I drew. And again, I'm kind of crunched up in there, and you know, the more scrunched up you are, you may be able to save maybe a half a sheet of paper, but losing points over a half a sheet of paper seems kind of foolish. And here is my, whoops, I forgot to do A1. A1 goes to, I forgot to draw it. Hold on. I thought there was something missing. And so I drew an expanded one, and it makes it look a lot better. It makes it look a lot better for me. And I know this one's kind of small, but you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. And I also need to put in my 5, 1, 1, 2. Okay, so there I have it. So now, for the most part, for this thing, I don't need to look at this part anymore. I've already kind of got what I'm going to use at. Then now I have to go and calculate my ES's and EF's. Now, doing this part, remember on this one before where we used to go like this. I'm going to point to, I'm going to use this one. So remember I used to go ES is equal to something, and EF is equal to something, and LS is equal to something, and LF is equal to something. Remember that when we did that on the first example? Well, that's just a lot of extra writing, and it makes it hard to keep up with things. So I just know in this corner, I put my ES's, this corner I put my EF's, this corner I put my LS's, and this corner I put my LF's. That's all I'm doing. So I do the same thing. And don't forget, we talked about, I should make sure I remember that thing about, I gotta try to find a place that, I'll just do it at the bottom. Remember that thing from before where we did, if you have 2 arrows coming in, you have to make a decision on your E and you choose the bigger, and you have arrows going in like this, backing into it, then you make a decision on your L, So what I'm going to do now is, before I even get started and possibly lead myself astray, is I look and I say, I'm going to say, where do I have 2 arrows coming in together? Oh, here's 2 arrows feeding into this one. I have to make a decision about an E here. I have to make an E decision. And I have more, and again, this one has 3 arrows, but I still have to make a decision between this one, this one, and this one. So I have an E decision here as well. Because the arrows are feeding into it, I had to make an E decision. And that one, that's all I see. Now I say, well, what about the L ones, where the L, you know, you have 2 arrows backing into something, I have to make an L decision. Okay. Oh, here I have 2 arrows. I have 2 arrows backing into this one. I have to decide between these L's. So I put an L question mark. And only 1 backing into here, 1 backing in, 1 backing in. Oh, I have 3 backing into here. So I have to make an L decision here, which L to choose. So I like to do that because it helps me not make that sort of mistake later on, where I automatically just kind of zip right by something. So I start off and say, what's the earliest I can start it is 0 right now. The earliest I can finish it is the 0. It takes 1 day to do this operation. So the earliest I can be done in 1 day. And I know I have no decision. So really, if I have no decision to make like I do here and here, I know that that number is the same as that number now because I get finished in the first day. Therefore, I can start this one the first day. And it takes me 5 days. So I say 1 plus 5 is 6. And I stop. I go down here and I say, there's no decision here. So the earliest I can finish it is 1 day. Therefore, I can start this on after the first day. So that's 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. And I cruise down to this one. I don't have to make a decision on my E, so that number 1 goes there as well. 1 plus 1 is 2. All right, so I'm moving along, and I say, oh, let me just go 2, and I move that 2 over there, and I say, whoa, no, I can't do that. I've got to make an E decision. But so I go to this one, and I say, oh, I don't know that one because I have to know this one first. So you say, oh, what's the next one I can figure out? Oh, let me figure out, okay, I have no E decision here. So the earliest I can finish here is 2. So therefore the earliest I can start this next one is after day 2 as well. So I have 2. So 2 plus 2 is 4. Now I am making some progress. Here I have an E coming in here. I have a line coming in here and a line coming in here. I choose, I remember for the E's, you choose the bigger of the 2 numbers. So I say, okay, I have 4 coming into this one. I have 2 coming into this one. I'm going to choose the 4 since it's the bigger. So I put 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. Okay, so now I go into here and I say, I got to make another E decision. So my E decision is I need to decide between 5, 4, and 6. I choose 6. And you say, well, this one has a lot more steps to it. Well, even though it has a lot more steps, overall time is not as great as this one. So you choose the biggest one. 6 plus 2 is 8. All right, and just like before, we're going to start now. We have to go calculate the LS's and LF's, which go on the bottom. Whatever number's there goes down there. 8 minus 2 is 6. Of course, that's going to be the same. By the way, I know right now that this is on the critical path. I'm just going to put my mark there because I know it's on the critical path because it's the top. This number and this number are the same. This number, that printer is really cantankerous. 6 and 6 are the same. 8 and 8 are the same. I'm going to pause just a second while this thing. Okay, so now I have no L decision here. So I know that since that 6 is there, that 6 goes there. Because I have no L, I don't have to decide. The earliest I can start this one is on the 6th day, so therefore I had to have this one done by the 6th day. 6 minus 1 is 5. By the way, I know right now that this is not on the critical path because these numbers don't match. Unless, of course, I did it wrong, and then that's a different story. This one, I say, all right, the latest I can start this. And by the way, when you're going this way on the L's, you only look at the bottom numbers, not the top number. Well, don't only look at the bottom numbers, not the top numbers. So when I do this one, I'm going to go from here to here. I'm looking at this number. So I say, okay, let me do this one. And so you would have a tendency to say, all right, 6, I'm going to put 6 there. And 6 minus 2 is 4. And that would be incorrect because you have to decide between 2 different L's. And remember, the L's, you choose the one the smaller with the 2 L's in it, right? It's the smaller of the 2. So this one is 5. Remember, I'm not looking at the top one. This one is 5. This one, let me think about this. This one is 6. This is 6 going from here back to there, okay? This is, remember, there's the 6. This one is 6 is LS. This one is 5. So we choose the smaller of the two, so we choose 5. 5 minus 2 is 3. Remember, I am saying this number, LS of this one, and LS of this one, because this arrow goes back into it. Is it 6 versus 5? I chose 5 because it's the smaller going this way. Okay, so I have 3 to 5. Okay, good to go. No decisions here, so this 3 just goes over to there. My pencil's acting up. So this ends up being 3 minus 1 is 2. Oh, it's pencil. 3 minus 1 is 2. By the way, I know that's not on the critical path. That's not on the critical path. That, well, I don't know about this one yet. This is not on the critical path because the number, this number and this number are not the same. This number and this number are not the same. So that means they're not on the critical path. I will say, since there's no decision here, I say 5 goes down to here. 5 minus 1 is 4. That's not in the critical path. All right, so I'm kind of cruising along. I'm going back to this one, but I have to say, I have to look at all 3 of these and decide, because I have to decide which L is the lowest or the smallest. So I say, this one is 6, and I'm going back there, and I'm going to put the 6 in. 6 minus 5 is 1, and guess what? These line up. These line up, so I know that that's on the critical path. So I'm just putting my dot there so I know. And I say I have to look at each of one of these 3 and choose the smallest. This one is a 1, this one is a 2, and this one is a 4. The smallest one's a 1, so I'm going to choose that one. 1 minus 1 is 0, and by the way, that's on the critical path. And this one and this one in this example have to be on the critical path for the simple reason is every single path goes through those 2. So if I wanted to, I could calculate and say from here to here is to here is 1, 2, 3, 5. It takes me 5 days to do this path. To do this path, it's 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 2 is 4, 2 is 4, plus 4 plus 1 is 5, plus 5 plus 2 is 7. It takes me 7 days to get to this, oops. It takes me 1, 2, 3, 5 days to do this path. It takes me 1, 2, 4, 5, 7 days to do this path. And it takes me 1, 2, 4, 6 days to do this path. And it takes me 1, 6, 8 days to do this path. This is the critical path because it's the one that takes the longest. If you were to ask me, well, is it possible to have 2 critical paths or 3 critical paths? Of course, of course. You just have to look at which ones, you eliminate anything that doesn't match, and then you try to figure out if you could have 2 critical paths. This one's obvious. There's only 1 critical path. So the critical path is A1 to A2 to A7. That would be the critical path, and that's how you do that problem. Okay. That's a good place to stop on this one. So we will stop there on this one so that you'll have the opportunity. I'll go on to example number B. Again, remember, the solutions to these problems are at the back few pages of the notes.